Dan Illman, Mike Beer, race number 9 at Churchill Downs on Saturday is the Grade 2 Fleur de Lis. $200,000 is the purse. Fillies and mares going 1 1/8 miles. Let's take a look at this field. We have got a giant name in this race. The number 5 Midnight Bisou, a champion. She had a sensational 2019, 7 for 8. The only loss coming in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, a race in which she ran a big second. And boy, did she fire in her first start this year. The Saudi Cup against the boys, just missing the maximum security. She is tons the horse to beat.
Yeah, she ran great in that last race overseas last time. We'll see how she comes back then. If she comes back anything like she was before she left, this field's going to have a tough time beating her.
It'll be interesting to see how she copes with the pace of this race. Serengeti Empress, the Kentucky Oaks winner of last year, well, we know where she's going to be early. She's going to be on the lead. The key to this race in some aspects is how fast does she have to go? Timeform US doesn't believe she has to go very fast at all. Now, the old Motion Emotion would push Serengeti Empress early. I'm not sure Motion Emotion has that kind of speed anymore, but she should at least be close to the pace.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like she has that, big early speed that she had early as a 3-year-old. It's totally gone away from her for whatever reason, Dan. And if that's the case in here, this is Serengeti's Empress' best chance to beat Midnight Bisou, it feels like, because she could be loose on the lead.
Now go Google yourself. Really likes Churchill Downs. She draws a comfortable inside post, and she does have the tactical speed to sit close to the pace. She didn't really fire in the Apple Blossom last time out. The Apple Blossom are really nice horses in that race. CC, Ali's Candy, Point of Honor. They've all come back to distinguish themselves very well in major races. Go Google yourself. I'm not sure is top class, but she is rock solid, and she's going to get a good trip.
Yeah, I feel the same way about her. If the good Midnight Bisou shows up, let's be honest, go Google yourself, probably just can't beat her. But she's, a very good horse in her own right, very consistent. I love the trip and ride she got last time in the Apple Blossom. Brian Hernandez gave her a chance in that race, and she just wasn't quite good enough to get it done in the stretch, but she ran fine in there.
The number 2, Another Broad's best advantage might be stretching out to the 1 1/8 miles. I really think this is her preferred distance. But I have the same questions about class for Another Broad as I do about several of these horses. While she's a very likable horse, a listed type, maybe a grade 3 type at her best, I don't think anyone's mistaking her for a Midnight Bisou. She was pace compromised last time out in the Shawnee.
I mean, true enough. And you're right that the 1 1/8 miles really works to her advantage. It does feel like she wants to go longer. I just don't think she's good enough.
Chocolate Kisses, it could be argued, still has a little bit of upside, Mike. She was a good 3-year-old. She won the Honeybee last year. And last time out in the Shawnee, she actually got a nice trip. She was up close to that moderate pace. She tried her best. She's just no match for one of the better mares in the country. That, of course, being Dunbar Road. But look at that race. It's produced Cheesa Julie, who pulled off an upset in the Grade 1 Phipps. It produced Volt, who came back to be graded stakes placed. That has been a legitimate race. And she has the tactical speed to adapt to any kind of pace scenario.
True. I mean, listen, she could get a really good trip in this race, like she did last time. And you know what? All in all, her Shawnee last time, it's the best race she's ever run. I know that she was a graded stakes winner last year. That's the best race that she's ever run in there. The trip did have a lot to do with it. But if she can build off of it, she could get a piece of this.
Serengeti Empress, 1 1/8 miles, Churchill Downs. If it sounds familiar, well, it's very familiar. This is where she wired the Oaks last year at 13-1, and she's going to be on the lead again. She looked really good over a wet track in the Azeri 2 starts back, where they just let her feet rattle, blasted out to the front, opened up a huge lead, and was never threatened in the stretch. In the Apple Blossom, she couldn't make the lead. And if there's one thing we know about Serengeti Empress, she's 2 different horses, a Jekyll and a Hyde, so to speak. She gets to the front, she runs her big race. You rate her, she's not as effective.
Yeah, and that's why I think you don't want to be too hard on her for the Apple Blossom, because she's shown that she can bounce back from poor performances in the past. And those poor performances are usually when the pace is really fast and she can't make the lead. And that was the case last time. She totally threw in the towel in the stretch. She will make the lead in here. And again, that gives her her best chance to beat Midnight Bisou.
And here's the big mare, Midnight Bisou. It could be argued, Mike, that going into last year, you would say that Midnight Bisou is better at a mile and a 16th than she was at a mile and an eighth. But she proved her mettle at a mile and an eighth on a couple of occasions last year, and certainly last time out. She ran big going that distance in the Saudi Cup. In the Breeders' Cup Distaff, she ran fine. It seemed like Mike Smith really had to work to get her motivated. She's just getting to the outside now, and Blue Prize is in raging form, and she's a mile and an eighth specialist. Midnight Bisou did her best. I didn't get the feeling she handled that track as well as she handled some of the others.
That's what I thought too. And, again, I think you're right. All in all, she ran fine. And Mike Smith did everything that he could do to try to get her the right trip in there. It just didn't seem like she ran her very best race, which was disappointing, Dan. Going into the Breeders' Cup, she had just had such a good campaign as a 4-year-old. And then to end it that way was a little disappointing. But she bounced back in a big way last time. She's way the horse to beat here.
Red Dane didn't have an easy assignment returning to dirt last time out. A, she caught a sloppy track. B, she caught Monomoy Girl. And while some folks were dubious of what you were going to get from Monomoy Girl off such a long layoff, they're not dubious anymore. Monomoy Girl, a champion in her own right, can still step. Red Dane ran fine, and one of the also-rans in that race came back to win an off-the-turf 3X with an 87 buyer. I'm just not sure she's this class of horse.
Yeah, I don't see any way that she could really beat this field, assuming everybody shows up.
I think Motion Emotion, the 7, can get a piece if she remembers who she used to be, and you got to go back a ways. I think her last 2 races were at least a little bit better. Last time out, she ran second to Blamed. I thought that was a good performance. The 5th horse coming back to run 3rd with an 88 buyer. She's likely in closest attendance to Serengeti Empress, though, Mike. And I'm not sure being on a hard chase with a good horse like Midnight Bisou sitting behind her is the right trip.
Yeah, that feels like a really tough trip for her. And then, you sort of add in the fact, Dan, that she may not want to go this far. A mile and an eighth could really be pushing it as well, even under the best of circumstances. And chasing Serengeti Empress, those aren't the best of circumstances.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the Grade 2 Fleur de Lis Handicap. Midnight Bisou is 3-5 on the morning line. She's just very, very tough to poke holes in her form. And if she comes back with any of her races from last year, she's just going to be really, really tough.
Yeah, I just can't bet against her here, Dan. I'm, mildly afraid of Serengeti Empress just getting loose and not stopping in this race. And we'll see if that happens. She'd be the only one I could even look to try to upset here.
Maybe I tried to get Motion Emotion, a horse that I've been a fan of. Maybe it's more of a heart than head play to use her underneath. But if Midnight Bisou gets through this, I'm really looking forward to see what we have for the rest of the year. 5714 for me, 5413 for Mike. The Fleur de Lis, the Grade 2 Fleur de Lis, race 9 at Churchill on Saturday, approximate post 5:15 Eastern. Best of luck.